Welcome to another episode, all. With all the turmoil going on in the United States at this point in time, between the Republicans and Democrats, we're going to go through Susan Monarez's hearing and point out about why so many of the Republican senators, feel the need to lie within the Senate. If you just allow me to share my screen.
Dr. Marshall.
Dr. Monarez, despite the president's executive order, did you encourage people to work remotely ever?
I did not encourage people to work remotely.
Okay. There were allegations that you took some of the political appointees and you basically took them out of your orbit, out of your office area. Did you reassign office location, desk location for the political appointees?
So I do want to go back to your first question. After the shooting, I allowed staff to work remotely.
Okay, you can give us the details of that later. The second question, did you push political appointees out of your main office area, reassign the political appointees seating?
I brought some political appointees in.
My question is, did you move some out?
So there's a limited number of offices in my.
Did you, I guess a yes or no, did you move political appointees out of your main orbit?
And I brought other political appointees in.
I'd like to point out that it's going to false dilemma already and false dichotomy is Senator Marshall, where it's taken it to you've got one out of two answers where it's either one or the other. No space for nuance, no space for explaining things.
Okay, you can give us the details of that later. Do you believe every child over the age of 6 months should have a COVID vaccine at least annually?
I believe that is a discussion that a parent needs to have with their pediatrician. And if it is right for that child, based on the risk, then that child should have the opportunity to get the vaccine.
Notice that Susan Monarez's answer there was about treating cases individually. Treating the child as an individual. While you found that Senator Marshall, he goes talking that all kids are one, that all kids get treated the same way, but that's actually a violation of medical ethics. Children need to be treated as individuals within the medical services.
If there's reports come out that show that indeed the COVID vaccination led to the death of children, would that influence your advice?
Certainly would want to know about that.
Okay, the CDC currently recommends between 70 and 80 shots over the child's lifetime. Do you fully support that recommendation that every child needs every vaccine as recommended by the CDC?
The data associated with those recommendations has been validated and vetted. That is the current schedule.
So you agree that you support every child needs every vaccine that's on the CDC recommendations, all 70 to 80 jabs?
The childhood vaccine schedule has been vetted and validated through science and evidence. The almost 20 different diseases that are mitigated through those vaccines are very important. I think that every parent should have the opportunity to talk to their pediatrician and make sure that they understand the benefits and the risks of those vaccines and what is in the best interest of their children.
Do you believe any or all of those should be mandated?
CDC does not mandate vaccines.
Right, take notice that Susan Monarez has just corrected him. At first, I thought it was just wrong when he said about CDC mandates. I thought he was just wrong, just mistaken. But now that Susan Monarez has corrected him, if he says it again, he's aware that it's false. But that's what he's going to do.
What CDC does is provide the evidence associated with the recommendations so that a parent and a physician can make the best determination for them.
Okay, if there's one AI site builder you need to meet, it's this dope tech from Wix.
When you were considering this job as CDC director, was there ever any doubt in your mind that you could fulfill the mission to work with Secretary Kennedy?
There wasn't. I have worked for political appointees and politicians for almost 20 years. And my experience has been when it comes to critical and important issues like science and medicine, data has always been paramount, and it has always been the core driver to how we work together.
Would you agree with me, though, at this point in time, that you're not the right person for this job? That your belief system, thinking that every child needs every vaccine, which is
Look, he's just gone and falsely accused that. He informed about, no, that's not what the CDC thinks. And he's just gone and said, yeah, it does, it does.
what your CDC does. Every child needs every vaccine, all 70 to 80 of them, is certainly a different mindset than Secretary Kennedy's. And that if the university president, I think a great sports analogy, I hate to do this, but the university president and the athletic director decide you're not the right coach for this team, then it's probably time to say goodbye and we need a new coach. Would you agree that certainly you're going in a different direction philosophically than Secretary Kennedy is?
So I will stand behind scientific integrity with every decision I ever make. If I am put in a position of having to say, I will cede the scientific integrity to retain my job, then I am not the right person for the position. I believe that we must have science and evidence to support the best decisions for our children and others who would benefit from vaccines.
So I think here's the biggest difference in philosophy that I see, is that I think the CDC is the cause of vaccine hesitancy, that you are the problem, that because of COVID and you're forcing these vaccines on people that
Look, it just falsely accused her again. So, well, falsely accused the CDC, saying, you're forcing these vaccines upon. He was corrected close to the start that no, the CDC does not mandate, does not force these vaccines. But it's just continually kept accusing that that's what they do.
weren't ever really proven or justified, that the benefits didn't outweigh the risk, and you all sat there with your hands in your pockets and you let that happen. And then you let this hepatitis vaccine be at 1 day of age, be forced upon everybody.
Again, forced upon everybody. They said no. Remember Susan Monarez saying about talking about the kids individually. Not a one-size-fits-all. Since this doc here, as he claims to be a doctor, I actually draw it into question, is he actually a doctor? Because those who actually are doctors know why that you would give a hepatitis B vaccine to a child at birth. So this doctor not knowing that, then this doctor thinking that it's all mandated and has to be forced upon. That makes me question if he is a doctor, is he actually an ethical doctor? Because all this forcing that he's talking about, that's a violation of medical ethics. So he obviously doesn't know medical ethics. So how can he follow the medical ethics code if he doesn't even know the medical ethics? So that draws into question, is he actually a doctor?
And all of a sudden, the moms and the grandmas never trust you because you're trying to force a vaccine that's not necessary at day one. If you're going into nursing school, medical school, absolutely, you should consider that hepatitis vaccine. But basically, what the CDC does is act like a mandate, and you
Look, he just made that false accusation again. He's aware now that that's wrong, and he's just lied again.
force doctors that don't agree with you to kick patients out of their clinics because they don't want their child to be exposed to a vaccine.
Look now, more false accusations. Then, oh, you forced doctors to kick them out of the clinics. No, nothing by the CDC is mandated or forced upon. If these vaccines were not on the recommendation list, so he doesn't seem to want, say, hepatitis B on the recommendation list. If the CDC removes it from the recommendation list, guess what? A mother who actually does have hepatitis B may want to have the vaccine for their child, because of the likelihood of the child being infected, but because it's not on the recommendation list, it's not insured. And because it is not insured, the parents have to empty the pockets. By it being on the recommendation list, it is insured so that the parents who do need it for their children can have it without having to go bankrupt. That's why it's on the recommendation list. That on the recommendation list is not mandated. Even I knew that. So how is it that this doctor doesn't know that?
That was approved after just like 140 patients took it, being followed up for 5 days. It just makes no sense to me that every person needs every vaccine. But regardless, some of the vaccines have done incredible work. They are a miracle. They've done a great job. The basic vaccines that we got in the 60s and 70s, polio, MMR, DTaP, those seem to be great vaccines that have told the test of time. But your attitude here that every person needs every vaccine is completely contrary to Secretary
Notice,
Kennedy's.
look, he just did it again, saying that that's their view, but it's not, and she corrected him, and he still kept saying throughout his whole 5+ minutes that that they think that every child requires every vaccine, when he was now aware that that was false. So you've got another liar right here. Why Senator Marshall feels the need to lie like that and make false accusations, I really don't get it.
philosophy and the mission of the president. Thank you.
Ugh.
Senator Paul.
Dr. Monarez, I agree with you completely that we need to restore trust in public health. But in order to do so, we have to have a discussion about the actual science, and we can't have a discussion this, is about all vaccines are good, all vaccines are bad. This is about specific vaccines. It's about specific age groups. It's about specific policies. Does the COVID vaccine prevent transmission?
The COVID vaccine can reduce viral load in individuals who are
Does it prevent transmission?
when you have
Right, I would like to point out the first logical fallacy here, which leads to manipulation and lies from Senator Paul. Notice about was going into false dilemma, false dichotomy, where he's only making it that there's two possible answers. It's either yes or no. Does it prevent it? Yes or no. And this is a trap which is playing on Susan Monarez. And I am not surprised that he is a Republican when Susan Monarez has just been fired by someone who supports Donald Trump. We'll get more into it as we continue.
have reduced viral load, you will have reduced transmission.
But in other words, it doesn't prevent transmission. You can still transmit the virus if you've had the vaccine. In fact, there's been reduced ability to interfere with transmission over time. And what we've found is the most recent one since Omicron is down around 16% reduction, if there is a reduction. Does the COVID vaccine reduce hospitalization for children under 18?
It can.
It doesn't.
So, where I pointed out that he goes trying to make it that there's only two possible answers, yes or no. But Susan Monarez told the scientifically accurate answer of it can. Everything within medical intervention always works within probability. It's not a black and white thing in medical intervention. So, regardless of a vaccine, regardless of medication, surgery, there's always the chance it won't work, and there's always the chance it will. So, you can't say yes, it will, or no, it won't, with certainty. So, he's going and demanding her to give false answers. Why is a senator demanding a witness to tell lies? What do you think he's trying to do?
The statistics are inconclusive, and the reason you can't prove that it does is there's so few people under 18 that go to the hospital. The numbers are extraordinarily small. There's like
Notice that here he is playing appeal to ignorance, another logical fallacy which people use, and you'll find that this one often gets used within religion. Where you'll find, say, the religious person will say to an atheist, "You've got no evidence that there is no God, so that means there is a God." and vice versa. You've got no evidence there is no God. That means there is a God. That's appeal to ignorance, and he's doing that here, is Senator Paul, where he's saying that because you can't prove it, that means it's false. But that also means because he can't prove his claim about a sample size, that must mean his claim is false. So one's false.
76 million kids under 18 in our country, 183 died, and a few thousand went to the hospital in 2020 and 2021. And since then, the numbers have dropped precipitously, and the idea and the issue needs to be discussed. But the COVID vaccine is not reducing hospitalization. It's not statistically significant. Does the COVID vaccine reduce the rate of death for children under 18?
It can.
Once again, it can. That's ridiculous.
Right, so the scientifically accurate answer, it can, according to Senator Paul, is ridiculous. These guys say they want golden science, these Republicans. They say they want honesty, transparency, and they go claim that the golden science answer, the accurate answer, is ridiculous. Come on, Senator Paul, grow up.
Answer, no, it doesn't, and there is no.
No, it doesn't. Didn't it just report about there being too few in sample size to even test it? So what's his evidence of his claim? Appeal to ignorance again. What's the evidence Susan Monarez is not right? The fact Susan Monarez said it can, she never said it will, it won't, it does, it doesn't. That shows that she's more knowledgeable about medical interventions and more knowledgeable about science in general.
No statistical evidence that it does reduce the death rate. These are statistics. We've looked at it. When they approved it, they had this discussion at the vaccine committee that we've been talking about. During the discussion, they acknowledged that there was no proof of reduction in hospitalization or in death. So what they did is they said, what can we use to try to make people take this vaccine?
I would like concerning this, why doesn't it provide any evidence for the record, Senator Paul? Why don't you put any statistics, records, or anything within the record to prove your claim? You can't just make claims without evidence and claim that you're telling the truth, Senator Paul. So prove that whoever this committee board is, prove that they did what you're accusing them of doing.
They came up with this. They said that if we give you a COVID vaccine, you make antibodies. So really the whole recommendation for having a COVID vaccine from 6 months up is not based on hospitalization data, not based on deaths. It's based on whether you make antibodies or not. And what people fail to see from this is I can inject you with a foreign protein.
Where he's going and saying it's not based on hospital data, it's not based on death data. Even if it's not, as I can agree, it's not, due to the sample size, the numbers. But what we can say is from what we know through things like immunity, from other scientific disciplines to do with biology, there are things that we know where we do not require numbers, but it's more said within what we see within biology. So we require biological factors, not numerical factors, but it's just after numbers. So it's been scientifically inaccurate again, manipulative, and deceitful.
Protein every week and measure antibodies, you'll make antibodies every time. It just means immunology work has nothing to do with whether you should get a vaccine every week. So when we're discussing the science here, we have to discuss what is the science in favor of giving a vaccine to a 6-month-old and what are the benefits from that? And there is no benefit of hospitalization or death. And then what would the risks of the vaccine be? We have large population studies of the risks of the vaccine in younger people. And
we found that that's exactly what gets done within the medical system, which makes me question where it says on the screen now. Former CDC head Susan Monarez testifies before the Senate Health Committee. I draw greatly into question the credibility of these people, since they're clearly not even educated about health. So what are they doing in a health committee? What are you doing here, Paul?
It turns out that you don't see this as much if you look at the general population, but once you start isolating in by age group, which you have to do in COVID because there's such a disparity among age group, you find that there is a risk of myocarditis, a significant event. It's somewhere between 6 and 8 in 10,000, but that's much greater than the risk of hospitalization or death, which are not even measurable because they're so small. So you resisted firing people who have this idea that the COVID vaccine should be at 6 months. That's what
So it's going to accuse now that she resisted to sack Vayers because apparently that they wanted the schedule to stay the same. They did. Well, if there's no reason to change the schedule, if they haven't found the reasons to change it yet, why would they want to change it? The scientists. Senator Paul here is clearly not a scientist. Otherwise, he wouldn't be saying the things he's saying. Like, he wouldn't be falling into logical, fallacious thinking.
That's what this is about. You didn't resist firing the perfect, beautiful scientists that are career people and unobjective and unbiased. You wouldn't fire the people who are saying that we have to vaccinate our kids at 6 months of age.
Okay, Senator Paul, I'll ask you a question. What about the other 983 that she was asked to sack? Can you tell me that they didn't have a difference? That they all agreed that there should be no changes made? So what about the other 983, Senator Paul? You absolute liar.
That's who you refuse to fire.
Listen, it's called Connect Team, and it's insane. I don't do schedules or timesheets manually anymore. And it works? Oh, like you wouldn't believe it.
So that assertion is not commensurate with the experience that I had with the individuals who are identified to be fired.
Did any of the people you refused to fire, did any of the people you
Allowed to
refused,
answer the question?
did any of the people you refused to fire believe that we should change the vaccine schedule and no longer force 6-month-old kids to take it? Every one of them was adamant we should keep it at 6 months. Everybody's alarmed, we're going to change the childhood routine. Well, we should. There is no medical reason. What is the medical reason to give a hepatitis B vaccine to a newborn whose mom has no hepatitis?
So none of the discussion points that you just brought up were ever.
That's changing.
The things which Senator Paul just mentioned are all false. He just directly lied. Well, why did he do that? Making these false assertions, such as the CDC does not mandate. And the fact he's asking the question, what's the medical reason to give a hepatitis B vaccine to a child at birth? That really makes me doubt that he's a doctor or that he's educated within health. Because sexual transmission, through having sex, that's not the only way to get hepatitis B. As the child, the fetus goes through the birth canal, as the doser, they're vulnerable to all the things around the womb. Everything within that womb, the fetus is susceptible to. So even the virus there, within them, if the hepatitis B is within them, it can still get passed on to the child. And if the child's infected while going through the birth canal, they'll have chronic infection when they come out. So they could be vaccinated, then be protected from hepatitis B. That's why. It's not because they think children are having sex. So the fact that Senator Paul thinks that the CDC thinks that children are having sex, that illustrates his dishonesty, because surely he doesn't actually believe that. And the fact I'm not a doctor, and even I know this, illustrates further he's either intentionally lying or he's not qualified for this position. So, Senator Paul, why don't you even know this stuff?
The childhood schedule.
Will you allow her to answer the question?
Regular order,
You have
regular
your
order.
time. You have your
Regular
time,
order.
Bernie. I got mine. Look, this is the debate over changing the childhood schedule. The hepatitis B vaccine on the schedule is given to newborns. What is the medical, scientific reason and proof for giving a newborn a hepatitis B vaccine if the mom is Hep B negative?
If the mother is being negative, that does not mean the mother does not have hepatitis. Because as I already mentioned, within medical intervention and medical science, things are always within probability. And we may not always be able to detect it. Such as, if we think of autism for a moment, the genetic mutations which have been associated with autism are also found in non-autistic people. But we hear people talk about severe autism, mild autism. It's the same with hepatitis B and all other viruses. They may not be severe enough to be detectable, but they are still there, but just not detectable. So that, that's why, sir, the mother could still have hepatitis B and still test negative. Such I'm sure when it comes to, say, doing genetic testing on the fetus, I can safely assume you've all heard of false positives. How are false positives possible if medical science is definitive? You know, uh, when people get tested for HIV, they get a false positive, they can get tested again and find that, oh, it was a false positive and that they don't actually have HIV. So where did those answers come from? But as I said near the beginning, uh, nothing in medical science is definitive.
I want to go back to the assertion associated.
What is the medical reason for giving a hepatitis B vaccine to a newborn? See, everybody's like blithely going along. We can't change the childhood. You're somehow terrible if you want to change the childhood. We should be discussing what is the childhood vaccine schedule, and the burden should be on you. You want to make all the kids take this?
The burden's already been proven in science. So, Senator Paul, why don't you even know this stuff? I'm not a doctor, but even I know it. You don't have to be a genius, Senator Paul. You've actually got to be thick and stupid to not know this stuff while being on a health committee. So, if you don't know this stuff, Paul, Senator Paul, I recommend you should not be there.
The burden is upon you and the people you wouldn't fire to prove to us that we need to give our 6-month-old a COVID vaccine and our one vaccine. That's what the debate ought to be about, not whether all vaccines are good or whether we live in Alice in Wonderland.
I actually agree with you, and I was open to the science. I just would not pre-commit to approving all the ACIP recommendations without the science.
Untrue.
Can Senator Paul prove his claim there? Not true. Because that's what you would expect of scientists. They would not draw conclusions until they have seen the scientific data that would support those changes. Basically, what Senator Paul is suggesting here, say if we were testing gravity, it's oh, just walk off this roof. Don't bother thinking about gravity first. Don't look at the data of what's happened in the past when someone steps off a roof. Don't look at that data of how height goes affecting people. Just walk off. You don't need to see the data. You don't need to know about anything else. Just walk off. Now, on to Senator Paul's other deceitful tricks that he's playing here. Notice that he did not allow Susan Monarez to give a full answer. And you're going to find this within the others later on in this video. What you find is, when you don't let someone give a full answer, you get a partial answer by asking partial questions. And by doing so, this is one of the tricks that politicians and lawyers play. They want you to give them lots of little blocks, little block after block. So they'll ask you partial questions, and that results in you telling partial truths. So they get a big collection of partial truths from you. Then once they've got this big collection, they'll select one that contradicts another. So because they never allowed you to tell the truth in the first place, but force you to tell partial truths, they can make it as if you contradict yourself and are lying. So I advise you all, if anyone ever disallows you to give a full answer, don't answer, make sure you can give your full answer. Otherwise, stop. Don't answer anything else from them because they are attempting to manipulate you, as is Senator Paul. So we've already got a deceitful liar here.
Moody, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here. My mic's on. Maybe I wasn't speaking loud enough. I have to say, I'm a new senator here, so this is all very troubling to me. But I'm really shocked. Most people come and introduce their families. I'm really shocked that we have behind you anti-Trump lawyers that you've invited. Do you want to introduce your lawyers that you brought with you today?
Right, notice we're already going into red herring. We're already doing. She's already taken it off track of what this hearing's actually about. The hearing is about the firing of Susan Monarez. You know, they say it's meant to be about trying to find out the truth. So why is she going astray already from the start? And why does it matter who her lawyers are, whether they're anti-Trump or Trump? Why does that matter? You know, she's competing against a group of politicians who support Trump, claiming that it's wrong to have anti-Trump lawyers. It's basically saying you should get a Republican to defend a Democrat, and you should get a Democrat to defend a Republican. So it entirely makes sense that you'd go for an anti-Trump lawyer, not someone who would support Trump and just stab you in the back.
I'm just noticing that they're aiding with your testimony. They keep handing you notes and whispering in your ears. So I figured you should probably, for the record, put their names in the record.
Going into a logical fallacy again. The names are actually already in the record. So why is she demanding it again? Ask yourself. So she's already shifting the focus away from the actual topic, the actual conversation, into a red herring, making it about lawyers.
My lawyers have been publicly associated with me already.
So you're refusing to acknowledge the attorneys that are present in this hearing room helping you with your testimony?
The attorneys that I have been.
I mean, I've been in the legal world for a long time, and
Yeah, when you've been in the legal world for a long time, I'd say that's a very foolish thing to admit to someone, because the legal world has no interest in truth. Basically, you just get told something because you're whole lawyers, then you defend that version of the truth. You know that they're possibly not telling you the truth, but you still defend it. So it's about defending whatever version your client has told you. Since Robert Francis Kennedy Jr. and Donald Trump are your clients, you're going to defend Donald Trump. That's what you're going to do. You've already done the red herrings.
attorneys generally aren't shy about stating appearances and saying when they're here helping clients. So is there some reason you don't want to introduce the senators to the lawyers that are here and put their names on the record?
Yeah, I think.
I mean, they're passing you notes, so I think it's fair for the record to know who's passing you notes
The record already knows, remember?
while you testify.
And
I really didn't mean that trying to be adversarial here. I just think for the record, it's probably good to know who's passing notes and whispering in your ear.
The record already knows. As I've said 2 times up to now, that was the third. And we're seeing now this lawyer going and playing Martin Bailey. She's playing. Martin Bailey is another logical fallacy when they'll make a broad claim, then they'll retreat back into an easy to defend position. And this is another way of manipulation. So what's Modi here doing? Manipulating people, manipulating witnesses who do not support Trump and Robert Francis Kennedy's actions.
I think my counsel is happy to follow up with you I was hoping that we would stay focused on the critical issues related to.
We're at a
Notice that
hearing.
Susan Monarez just said, hoping that they would stay on the critical issues. Stay on. But you've got Senator Modi here going into red herrings, not wanting to stay on the topic.
Because you called the chairman and talked about these issues, and the chairman has called a hearing, and now you're here testifying, and you have attorneys giving you notes and whispering in your ear, presumably about your testimony. So for the record, who is here with you, helping you with your testimony? I mean, look, I'm a judge, I'm a former federal prosecutor, I was attorney general, I was a lawyer. Like
Senator Modi, don't go admitting that to people, because they'll just go more silent. As that's what lawyers often advise people to do, as you should know. They advise the clients to stay silent.
This is not an abnormal thing.
Yeah, my attorneys have been publicly associated with me.
What attorneys are here with you at this hearing, assisting with your testimony and whispering in your ear? Please state their names for the record.
My two attorneys that are in the room would be happy to follow up with you after the discussion.
Right, I'd like to take notes about Susan Monarez. That was the fourth time now about she said the exact same sentence, imitate the sentence she was saying. This is what you've got to do when it comes to politicians, lawyers, and the legal system. Remember that politicians and the legal system are not interested in truth, and have already of how they're using manipulators to defend their client, in other words, to defend Donald Trump against her, to defend Robert Francis Kennedy against Susan Monarez. So Susan Monarez, since she's not a politician or lawyer herself, she's smart enough to know. So don't go giving out more information. Don't give them who are against you too much information.
This is the Smart Dash Pro. It's a car tablet that goes in the front of your car. Set it up here, plug it in down there, and
So, Mr. Chairman, I would like the record to reflect that you have called a hearing of two people who have hired anti-Trump lawyers. When did you hire them?
I sought their counsel, I believe on the day around on or before the day I was fired.
And is now refusing, now that they're in the courtroom and helping with testimony and passing notes on what to say, refusing to give their names to those of us that may not know their names.
They all know the names unless they have been outright ignorant of their own colleagues. So, Senator Modi, throughout this whole hearing, have you been ignorant towards your colleagues? Ignorant towards the witnesses? I can safely assume not. So why are you pretending that you are plain ignorant? That is clearly deceit, as exactly what we would expect from lawyers. Senator Modi, that's why I said it was a foolish idea of you to confess and share that you've been a judge, a lawyer, and worked in the legal system for a long time.
Their names. I mean, is there a reason you don't want to give their names? Are you
No,
afraid that it's going to come unraveled, that you have this whole network of people that's trying to embarrass the president or go after the president, and now you are joining this group? I mean, why don't you want to give their names?
No, it's that she's now playing poison the well. Another logical fallacy. So why is she so obsessed with logical fallacies, as are the other Republican senators? By being so obsessed with the logical fallacies, that illustrates she is intentionally manipulating and lying. But she is defending Trump. She's not trying to discern truth. If it was the truth that they were discerning, she would stay on topic, not be interested. Now they're poisoning the well and going on to what's called the slippery slope logical fallacy. Such as she was complaining about Susan Monarez contacting the Senate, the Congress, but that was her job to contact the Congress and inform them of what's going on. So that's what she did. And now look about Senator Modi is trying to make it as if telling the Congress was wrong of her, trying to make it as if doing the right thing is wrong. So, Senator Modi, why exactly did you do that? Why were you defining the right as wrong and the wrong as right?
Their names have been publicly associated with them. They issued public remarks early on
Well,
after.
let me ask your colleague. I've noticed they've also been giving you notes too and whispering to you. Will you state their names?
So their names are Abby Lowell and Mark Zaid.
That wasn't too hard. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I really was genuinely asking so that the record was clear. But now I'm wondering what else we're trying to hide. And I'll go back to you. Did you plan to coordinate? And I'll go back to the original witness. Did you plan to coordinate this public spectacle surrounding your firing?
Notice that here she's trying to defend Trump and Robert Francis Kennedy again. You know, to try and make it like it's some public thing when her firing was extremely abrupt. It was a last minute thing. She wouldn't have time to plot all of this, to plan it all. And she wouldn't have gone to be the CDC director if she just wanted to be fired. She wouldn't have done it.
No.
And have you coordinated with Dr. Oury? Am I pronouncing that correctly? And I apologize if I'm not. Did you coordinate with her or anyone else that you worked with surrounding your leaving?
I did not coordinate with anyone surrounding my leaving. I was terminated abruptly.
So you had no advance plan to write an op-ed, do a public hearing? I noticed that you immediately called our chairman.
And like I said, that's what they're supposed to do. That's what she agreed to do at her confirming. The Republicans confirmed her as CDC director, where she would report things to Congress, keep the Congress informed. And look at how Senator Modi here is making it as if keeping her what she promised to do, as if it's wrong to keep that promise. Why are you doing that, Senator Modi?
I had committed during my confirmation process several elements, including integrity, transparency, working with Congress.
But you had no advance plan with any colleagues?
I had no advance plan with any colleagues.
Dr. Oury, if there wasn't an advance plan, did you tell a reporter we agreed to do this together?
Myself, Dr. Jernigan, and Dr. Daskalakis.
Agreed to do this all together?
Once Dr. Monarez was being terminated, the three of us knew that we could not remain given our ethical concerns and commitment to scientific integrity.
I just want to make a brief comment as my name was invoked. As the chairman of the committee with jurisdiction over the CDC that favorably reported Dr. Monarez as CDC director, it is entirely appropriate for someone with oversight concerns to contact my office or me, or frankly, any of us. Upon receiving outreach from Dr. Monarez, I contacted both the Secretary and the White House to inquire what was happening and to express concerns about what was alleged. As soon as the director was fired, the HELP committee began reviewing the situation as it is our responsibility, and any and all communications with the witnesses was conducted by HELP staff in coordination with attorneys.
Mr. Chairman, may I comment on that, please?
Yes, sir.
Very briefly, I find it rather astounding that anyone is concerned that government heads of agencies talk to the elected officials of the United States of America. That is what they are supposed to do.
Exactly. So why was Senator Modi trying to make it as if that was a bad thing?
Thank you. Thank you so much for being here. And Dr. Monarez, I appreciate your time coming before this committee again. I'd like to go over some timeframes first, but first of all, who fired you?
I believe the president fired me.
Okay. Do you serve at the will of the president?
I do.
And just for the record, the president's removal power is rooted within the Constitution separation of powers and are necessary to ensure that the executive branch officials are aligned with the administration's policy. This means the president can remove them at any time for any reason or for no reason at all. Would you agree with that?
I would.
Okay, so what day was you fired?
I believe I was fired on August 27th.
Okay, what day was the first time you seeked counsel? Not retained, seeked counsel.
I don't recall.
We can get those records, so maybe you should recall them, because I think you might have an honesty issue here that we want to point out. So what day was it that you spoke to the attorneys the first time?
It was on or before the day I was fired.
No, that's when you retained them. You already testified to that. When did you speak to them?
Again, it was on or before the day I was fired.
So you retained them the first time you spoke to them?
I believe that I retained them the first time I spoke to them.
Was you let go in the middle of the night? Was you let go in the middle of the day?
I believe.
Now, I know the answer to this, so let's.
Right, take notice of that part. He knows the answer to this. You know, he apparently knows the answers to all the questions he's asking, he claims. Keep notice of that part.
Be honest here.
I believe I received, I believe I received an email from the White House indicating that my services were no longer needed.
What time was that?
Sometime in the afternoon, sometime in the evening.
Late evening, late afternoon, late evening? And so you got hold of the attorneys late at night?
I'm sorry, what?
You got hold of the attorneys after business hours to retain them?
I don't recall.
I think you do.
I really.
I think you don't recall retaining your attorneys.
I don't recall the specific time or day that I returned them.
See, I still think you have an honest issue because it wasn't that long ago. And I think I could recall when I hired an attorney. And I could definitely recall the time I did it. Now, when did you remove the political appointees from the floor that you work on?
Again, I did not, I moved some political appointees in, and I put my senior advisors together.
No, it's about doing that thing, trying to make her build blocks again, using manipulation tactics to make her given blocks, smaller answers, partial answers, rather than actually giving the full truth. That's one thing I don't quite get about the Republicans in this hearing, is they seem to want partial answers, partial truths, but never the full truth. They never give the witnesses time to share the full truth.
You remove them and remove their access to your floor. And you had a conversation with the secretary about this. When did that happen? Like how many days into your job?
I'm sorry, I don't even know what you're asking.
Yeah, you do, because you already talked about political appointees that the secretary had put in place. You removed the political appointees that was in there when you first got to your work. When did you remove them from your floor and take away their ability to access your floor? And you know exactly what I'm talking about because you and the secretary spoke about that.
You are.
Right, of how you and the secretary spoke about that. Keep a hold of that, because how does he know?
You're miscontextualizing.
No, I'm not. I'm asking the question, what day did you remove them?
I have one political chief of staff. I have 3 political chiefs of staff. I had space made for all of them in my suite.
When did you remove the political appointees before, or the political hires before you got there? That was there prior to you getting there? This isn't hard. It's not hard. You talk in circles, and I just want an answer.
When you're in front of politicians, lawyers, it actually is hard, because you immediately know that the politicians and lawyers are trying to trick you, that they're trying to defend someone else over you. So it isn't half difficult when you are facing politicians and lawyers who are actually trained to use these manipulative tactics to deceive you whether you're actually trained to do that. But if you're a scientist like Susan Monarez, scientists are not trained to be intentional liars, which is why it's easier to catch a scientist out if they're just lying.
Because you know.
So I had the security of my suite.
Hi guys, my name's Kasim and we here at eTech Mobility are Birmingham's leading electric wheelchair and mobility scooter.
Okay, so let me ask you something. Your conversation with the secretary, you said that he said he didn't trust you.
Correct.
You testified to that. Is that really how that conversation went? Because there's other people in the room, and I think the conversation was, can he trust you? And your answer was?
He said he could not trust me.
No. The answer, ma'am, it was a recorded meeting. So you can testify one way, or you can prove that you're lying or give them and be honest with this committee. And I'm giving you the opportunity to be honest here because you've been really walking around the edges and not.
Oh, Senator Mullen, you've been really walking around the edges. Notice by him saying he knows that that meeting did not go the way Susan Monarez is saying, he's implying that he knows how that meeting went. He's just gone and said there's a recording to support that he knows how that meeting went. So make sure you keep a hold of that part, because that's going to be what reveals it.
Not being truthful. So did he ask you the question, can he trust you? And your answer was?
He told me he could not trust me. And I told him if he could not trust me, he could fire me.
That isn't how that conversation went.
Right, how does Senator Mullen know that? So it's just backed up even further that there's a recording, as he wasn't at the meeting, so the only way it could be if there was a recording. So make sure you keep that on board. Now concerning this, where Robert Francis Kennedy at his hearing went saying, oh, I asked her, is she a trustworthy person? And then she said to me, no. Close quote. Now, I would like us to just use common sense for a moment. First of all, have you ever come across anyone who says that? But if you ask someone, are you trustworthy? A trustworthy person? Do you know anyone who says no to that question? I've never come across anyone who does. But then secondly, if she said no, so let's imagine it actually did go that way. Then Susan Monarez said no. How exactly could Robert Francis Kennedy trust her answer if she's not a trustworthy person? Anyone who wants to find out if you are trustworthy or if I'm trustworthy, you wouldn't actually ask the person that you want to know about their trustworthiness. You would ask people who know that person. Is this person, is Susan Monarez trustworthy? You know, you'd ask her colleagues, you'd ask her co-workers. You wouldn't ask Susan Monarez herself. Any of you hear me? Would any of you do that? Would you actually ask the person themselves, are you a trustworthy person? Have any of you ever thought of doing that? So.
And you know that, don't you?
He told me he could not trust me. And I told him if he could not trust me, he could fire me.
Ma'am, all we're looking for is you to be honest. And you haven't been.
The fact she's just given confirmed the same thing which said 3 out of 3 times in identical language. That's the advice from lawyers. That's what lawyers want their clients to do. So Susan Monarez is basically accepting the counselling of her lawyers. She is. And in this case, where it is saying about honesty, we can already see the dishonesty among these.
You're not being honest with the conversation you're having. You're not being honest with the timeline, and you won't even give the answers of who your attorneys were. And all we're looking for is you to be honest. If we're going to have a hearing and we're going to discuss certain things, let's make sure we're talking with someone that we can trust your answers. It's like my kids. I tell my kids all the time, you know, one thing I want from you, I can deal with any situation we walk into as long as I know you're being 100% honest with me.
Oh, well, how can he deal with himself then, when he is completely being dishonest right here? How can he deal with himself? Exactly.
The minute I can't tell you're being honest with me, I can't trust you. From then on, everything you say is questioned.
And Senator Mullen, why isn't everything you say questioned? Why isn't everything you do questioned? You know you're lying, Senator. And now I would just like to bring up, as you were on this hearing, senators, you seem rather concerned about the public being able to trust the health services. I actually think you should be just as concerned about, can the public trust the Senate? So can Americans trust you? If you're going to keep intentionally lying, being liars, manipulators, uh, how many witnesses will want to come and testify before you? You're not going to get much information if they know they're just going to come there to be falsely accused by you.
And you have to question you because your personality and your answers aren't correct. Therefore, I yield back.
Senator Markey.
All right, I'm just going to zoom ahead to the next part, which gives away that this is an intentional liar, definitively. We'll start from here.
If you think it might rain later, then all you need is this bearskin heavy storm rain jacket. That's because this is the only hike.
No, I appreciate you raising that, and just what we've seen and in terms of how they've talked about this with the VSD, a lot of concerns, and I think there's a lot more this committee needs to do to look into that. Thank you, and I yield back.
For the record, it's just been reported that Senator Mullen told reporters that he was mistaken in saying that the RFK Monarez meeting was recorded.
Saying he was mistaken that the meeting was recorded. Now, here's the thing. Is he either lying there, or he was lying when he was implying that he knows how that meeting went. Because if he goes saying he was mistaken, that means there's no recording. If there's no recording, he does not know how that meeting went. If he does not know how that meeting went, he lied during the hearing, the part which we just showed you. But if he was telling the truth there, but he does know how that meeting went, that means there is a recording, meaning he has just lied. By reporting he was mistaken, there is no recording. This is called catch-22. Either way, if he's telling the truth here, he's lying here. But if he's telling the truth here that he's mistaken, he's lying here. So, if one of them's true, the other one's false. He's caught himself out. There, so we've got, just in this one hearing, we've got Senator Paul, Senator Marshall, Senator Moody, and Senator Mullen, all as manipulative, deceitful liars, falsely accusing witnesses. So, senators, I advise you, if you want the public to trust the Senate, be honest with the witnesses. Be interested in truth, not interested in defending a client. I would never trust the Senate. Now, that's all of them. So, I would just like to sum a few things up at the minute. In the United States at the moment, Robert Francis Kennedy is a conspiracy theorist. So the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, the Food and Drug Administration, and the National Institutes of Health, all of them are under the direction of a conspiracy theorists. We now know that the Senate has intentional liars, and manipulators who want to manipulate the truth, not discern the truth. So I wouldn't be able to trust the Senate. I wouldn't be able to trust the health services now. All the scientific claims from these institutions under the direction of Robert Francis Kennedy, knowing how stupid and uneducated Donald Trump is, especially from the things he said about his autism announcement. Oh, Tylenol is the cause of autism. Oh, thinking that children have sex. The delusional things that Donald Trump says. I cannot believe it's a mystery to me that Donald Trump is president, that Robert Francis Kennedy is Secretary of Health and Human Services, that Republicans confirmed a conspiracy theorist when this was known publicly that is an anti-vaccine activist. And we know that vaccines do not cause autism. So him claiming, they want golden science, going and claiming vaccines cause autism, I'm afraid the science says otherwise. And we've actually got evidence that Andrew Wakefield, who started this whole thing, is a fraud himself. It was fraudulent paper, which is why the paper was retracted from the Lancet here in the UK. So you've got someone who follows frauds. I wouldn't be able to trust the Senate. I wouldn't be able to trust Donald Trump. I wouldn't be able to trust the government for actually sustaining Donald Trump, being stupid enough to do that. And I wouldn't be able to trust any of those institutions under the direction of Robert Francis Kennedy. So it's an absolute mystery how those of you in America have gone sustaining these people in such positions of power. The ones of you across there who actually do think that they are suitable for these positions. Robert Francis Kennedy, clearly not suitable for the job. Hiring him to be the Secretary of Health and Human Services is really no different to hiring a pedophile to work in a nursery. It's really no different. And then all the senators in that hearing that we've just gone through, they know hardly anything about health, and it claims it's a health committee. This draws me into questions about you Americans. How does your employment system work? Don't you actually require certain qualifications for certain jobs? Or they just employ random people? I would never accept a surgery or see a doctor across there in the US. Because I've actually got no idea now. Are these doctors actually educated doctors? Can I trust this doctor when the US just employs anyone? Does this doctor actually have the required education to handle my epilepsy? To know which medications to prescribe? What dosages to prescribe me? Do they know what level to take my vagus nerve stimulation up to? I see it an absolute mystery. So I would advise you, across in America who support Trump, actually employ people who are suitable for the job. I really hope you do not put pedophiles in nurseries, as that's the impression you give me. That you allow child molester in. But I am so glad not to be an American, because I am so concerned about my American friends after finding out this is the way America works. That is so appalling. These are such appalling standards that once I found this out, it's no surprise to me you've got so much gunfire going on in your country, in the US. It's no surprise to me there's so much crime, gunfire, drug abuse such high levels of chronic disease? Because there seems to be no wisdom within your leadership. In the leadership of America, there seems to be no sense of wisdom, no sense of logic, no sense of reason. But I am pleased to see that other content creators who aren't US citizens are actually making videos against Donald Trump, pointing out his thick and stupid, the claims he makes, pointing out about Robert Francis Kennedy, that he's absolutely not suitable for the job whatsoever. I can clearly see about the Democrats. They know that he's not suitable for the job. They've got a better sense. So I'm glad that some Americans themselves, who are not the leaders of the government, are actually knowledgeable and actually have a sense of wisdom. But those in leadership, Donald Trump, Robert Francis Kennedy, Dr. Oz, for them to be in the leadership of health, it is unbelievable. Really. It's just an absolute mystery.